Ladies and gents, it's Preacher, and we're looking at the Feral Druid, one that you might be deciding to roll in Warlords of Draenor. So you're looking how it's changed. If you're playing it now, is it going to be altered in some weird way? Is it going to be made crazy? Going to be made funky? I actually made quite a negative video about Feral Druids a little while ago. I made a very negative video. I actually stand by a lot of the things I said in that video. I'm not going to go over them again, so you can check that. I'll link it down below. I went into detail on the problems I think this class has, this spec. But what I would like to say this time round is that nothing much has changed. Okay, they're keeping pretty much to their word of keeping ferals pretty much exactly as they are in Mists of Pandaria. The quality of life thing in terms of combo points sticking to the character is wonderful. It's great for spreading bleeds around. What I found most of all, which is what is the biggest appeal, I think, to players of Feral Druids, is your utility in terms of off-healing is very, very strong. Really strong. And I found that during the excessive amounts of downtime that Feral Druids do have, is that I was best served throwing around heals. I've got Rejuve that I can cast in Cat Farm. I've got the obvious healing touches that I can fire around. All that kind of stuff comes to serve a very good purpose, particularly on the Ner'zhul fight. I'll show in the background right now, which is notoriously one of the more difficult fights, although it has been greatly nerfed now. Balanced is what I would say there. It was very useful for me to off-heal the tank and provide that utility. So it's kind of the last bastion of real hybrids, I would say. Other classes do have some hybrid utility, but a lot of that has been stripped away in Warlords of Draenor, whereas Feral lost Tranquility, which is a little bit on the sad side, I would say. I mean, I've mentioned it on on the Moonkin video as well, is that occasionally Tranquility is just so fucking useful, and things can go wrong. It's nice to have that backup. It just doesn't exist anymore. We're going to have to work around it, but the off-healing provided by Feral is very useful. So you'll notice I'm talking a lot about other stuff except DPS. The damage is there. The damage is there. Blizzard's balanced it, so yes, you do plenty of DPS, and you're just going to be playing your class and spreading bleeds around, and trying to make best use of your minor ability to snapshot, via either Blood Talons or Tiger's Fury. The actual trinket snapshotting that was causing great DPS issues for Blizzard, not for the player, in Mists of Pandaria is gone, but you still have the opportunity to do some snapshotting and get some slightly buffed rips and all that kind of stuff, and that is where your focus will lie. Now, I will say that because of the downtime, it's not that difficult to try and work it in there. I found myself getting lazy, but ultimately, it's not a spec for me. If I was to really play it properly, I would have invested lots of time in trying to keep my focus on actually playing it rather than sort of drifting away, unfortunately, which is not very professional, I know, but I can't help the fact that after a few hours of playing this, like I've spent since last night and today, is that I just can't help feeling that way. I'm just going to drift off, and I'm ready to work on the next class or thinking about the next class or something like that. For those of you who like that hybrid style of play, the Feral Druid is there for you. Okay, the Feral Druid is there. It does what it does. Okay, you get all this extra utility that's outside of DPS. I frankly don't want to touch too much more on it. After checking into various websites and the discussion on Feral Druids, as I usually do to see what the feeling is back from the players, it's really quite sad. It's really quite sad. It's one of those specs that's being defended to the hill, almost to the point of absurdity. Some of the comments that I'm reading about Feral Druids in terms of, it's not wrong, it's not bad because of this, this, and this, are just frankly untrue and unfounded, and it really seems an almost delusion, but there are some good points in there. Not every post is like that, obviously. Not every post is like that, but it's one of those specs that's defended to the very death. I mean, even if it came to the point of being completely broken, I think people would still defend it and keep it alive. So there you go, guys. I'm not overly happy with it. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. I've got to say that. I think that's worth mentioning here for people who are considering it. There are frankly far better specs and classes out there right now. In fact, all three of the other Druid specs are far better, in my personal opinion. That's obviously subjective. Some people will disagree, like I say. Some people will defend this thing to the death. And in my opinion, I just can't recommend the Feral Druid. I can't. I think you guys, if you're into any sort of really sort of fun interactive play, I think you might get a little bit bored. But if you are looking to be kind of a strong DPS that provides extra healing utility in a time where extra healing isn't really a thing for a lot of other specs and classes that maybe had that in the past, then perhaps this is for you, and you can get used to it. Alright guys, and plus you have the option to always switch over to something else should an encounter require it. Other than that guys, that's pretty much my summary of the Feral Druid. For my in-depth thoughts, please check the other video. Nothing has changed since then in my personal opinion. I'll see you again. Bye.